Hey, it's Dasu, your K-content guide. At last, this is the final episode of the East Palace. In episode 8, I felt the drama gives its ghost slayer the cruelest and yet most beautiful ending, as Gu-cheon chooses the path of becoming a monster himself for the person he loves. Episode 8 begins by nailing down the origin of the curse for the last time. The Queen Dowager had framed a court lady for having an affair with a royal guard, and that unjustly ruined lady became a 1GWI, swearing to sever the royal bloodline entirely. The root of every death that blanketed the East Palace was, in the end, a single slander from the Queen Dowager. I found this final confirmation both chilling and clean. At last Gu-cheon descends to the deepest part of the realm of GWI and faces the worst of all beings, the Ak-gwi. The moment Sengang's life rests in that Ak-gwi's hands, Gu-cheon obliterates it without hesitation. But the price was brutal. The one who destroys an Ak-gwi must become an Ak-gwi himself. It hurt me more, not less, that Gu-cheon doesn't agonize for even a second before this final choice. Having become an Ak-gwi, Gu-cheon uses his last strength to hand over all his remaining young energy to Sengang. Thanks to it, Sengang is able to return safely to the world of the living. A man who spent his life crossing the threshold of the afterlife to save others, in the end, gives away his entire being and remains on the far side. I think this sacrifice was tearfully true to who this character is. Back among the living, Sengang quietly sits beside Gu-cheon's cold, still body. She simply waits, endlessly, for him to open his eyes again. I felt that closing not on flashy action but on this scene of one person waiting for another leaves a far deeper resonance. Let me lay out the cast. Nam Joo-hyuk plays the ghost slayer Gu-cheon, Ro Yoon-seo plays Sengang who hears the dead, Cho Sung-woo plays the king broken by the curse, and Jang Young-nam plays the Queen Dowager, the root of every tragedy. I think the reason this work kept its class to the very end is that these four actors never flattened their complex characters, each of them at once victim and perpetrator. But the story we thought had completely ended leaves one small hope at the very last. Sengang suddenly realizes it, that being who had circled Gu-cheon since episode 1, Jeomyeok-sali, is still firmly bound to him. And that meant Gu-cheon was not entirely dead, but still alive somewhere. At this final twist, the breath I'd been holding finally broke free. Leaving the lingering note that Gu-cheon is still alive, the 8-part series The East Palace draws its curtain. Having fulfilled his duty to the king, Gu-cheon finally earns the freedom to leave the palace, yet a chain leading into the realm of GWI is still wound around his fingertips. In summary, The East Palace was a fine work where lavish visuals, a tightly woven curse narrative, and the depth of characters who are both victim and perpetrator all struck in harmony, and its opening week record of number 1 on Netflix globally and the top 10 in 81 countries was no accident. If I had to name a weakness, Gu-cheon's final choice to become an Ak-gwi moves a touch quickly, leaving little room to sit with its weight, but I think the open ending turns that regret into anticipation for a season 2. Dasu's rating, 4.8 out of 5. This was Dasu, see you next episode.